Listener discretion is advised. This podcast may include profanity and discussion of sensitive topics. Any opinions expressed are those of the speaker and do not reflect the opinions of any other person or entity. Welcome to episode 12 of the Real Future podcast. My name is John Nyboer. I'm a Los Angeles-based photographer of street dance culture, and I started this podcast to share the personal stories and perspectives behind the world's largest arts movement. My guest today is Brandon Juezan, aka BeastBoi. Brandon is the creative director of touring and events for a versatile dance company. He's a hip-hop dance instructor for Steezy Studio, and he's a member of the international Krump family, Beast Camp. This is a unique episode. Before our conversation, I took a dance lesson with BeastBoi, and if you're watching a video version of this podcast, you can see some footage of my attempts at Hip Hop Foundation. When he came to the studio a couple of weeks later, we had an extensive exchange that explored his personal story, what it takes to manage and fund a nonprofit dance company, and the significance of Krump's increasing popularity. He also asked me how I entered into the street dance community, which gave me a chance to talk about the why behind my photography and this podcast. I'm going to break that out into a separate episode, so keep an eye out for that. We finished up with a nice drum and dance exchange that you don't want to miss. So let's get into the real future with Brandon Juezan.
Yeah, it's the white one.
Yeah, all that high gloss polyester fabric.
Yeah.
Welcome to the real future, Brandon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you so much, man. Like taking time out of your day.
Of course.
Coming here. I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little better. And everybody gets flowers because, as you
amazing.
see,
Yeah.
above flower shop.
Above flower shop.
These are. Do you know what these are?
I don't. This is real pretty.
They're coffee beans.
Oh, I love coffee.
Yeah. Okay, that's
coffee
cool. I
bean.
didn't. I tried to get something. Like I didn't really know what matches you, but I was like, okay, we'll try this.
That's awesome.
But coffee beans, right?
Coffee bean. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, they're not the beans. They're the thing that.
But yeah.
Eventually, they take the bean out of there. So it's good that you love coffee.
I love coffee.
I nailed it.
You did. That's so cool. I've actually never seen coffee beans like that. I've only actually ever seen them like.
Yeah, they'll get them down here. They'll have orange and red, and I think I'm not sure, but I think it's just kind of like chilies as they get older, they get darker. I think that's what happened because they don't spray paint or anything.
Wow. That's so cool. Yeah. Definitely. I'll put these up.
So there, yeah,
definitely.
Take them home.
Yeah. No, I'm going to
Take
visit
them
my
to your
girlfriend.
girl, whatever.
I'm about to go see her. I'm going to be like, here, put them in a vase.
Nice.
Yeah. Perfect.
Nice.
Awesome.
So did you were working with you said you were rehearsing with Versatile today, right?
Yeah, we usually rehearse 2 to 3 times a week. So Monday, Wednesdays, and sometimes Fridays. We rehearse for anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours. A lot of it, I mean, especially we're rehearsing more consistently when we prep for shows. Obviously, like this one, we'll make sure we have like the 3 days a week for like our big shows. But we like to just stay consistent in general, just with keeping our bodies maintained and always meeting on a weekly basis just for things that could come up, like prepping for shows, making sure that we're in show shape throughout the year. So, yeah, even if we don't like have an immediate big show on the books, but we know it's something that's even a couple months down the line, we're going to try to meet up at least once or twice a week to just keep the movement in our bodies, keep training with each other so we also have good synergy on stage, and then just making sure we're in shape because our performances are always really intense and high energy. So, it's a lot different to be in the gym and like to try to push yourself by yourself and then be in the actual space with the people you're dancing with. And like that push kind of like it pushes your mind and your body a different way. So it's good to have that. Even in preparation for a show that's kind of far down the pipeline. So
are they like structured? Is it all working on a particular thing, or do you just kind of sometimes freestyle?
Well, freestyle is a big part of our rehearsals just because we freestyle on stage. So we're one of, because when it comes to street dance and putting it on stage, there's not a lot of groups that consistently perform and tour doing street dance and hip hop on the concert stage, but a lot of times, too, there's this stigma or this idea that you have to kind of frame street dance in a way that, ballet and contemporary audiences would understand. So it's a lot of contemporary fusion, choreography focused. And our whole thing was like, nah, if we're going to bring street dance to the stage, we're bringing street dance to the stage. We're bringing ciphers to the stage. We're bringing freestyle and raw expression to the stage. Of course, we'll have some group moments where we're doing choreography and things, but we're not trying to get on a concert stage that's, historically for more Eurocentric styles like ballet and contemporary and modern. And we're not trying to get on that stage and be like, well, we have to make our hip hop, our dance concert now. It's like, nah, we're going to make the concert stage street. So like, that's kind of our focus, is that like, even if we're going to go put a performance on, it's going to be heavy raw like freestyle as well. So you'll get the fun, flashy group numbers and things like that, but you're also going to see us getting down.
So I love that you brought this distinction between what you termed more Eurocentric styles, ballet, contemporary, and street dance. Because it's, ever since I kind of started learning about street styles, right? I've been really interested in, how do I turn, like, what do you, when you say, okay, you say, sometimes street dancers feel they have to adapt stuff to fit the stages, right? But you're not saying that you don't want to be on those literal stages, right? So what do you think the barriers, because it's become very apparent to me that the art form or the art forms of street dance, right, like whatever the style, the top practitioners are just as much artists as any other dance form that goes to Disney Hall or that goes to the National Ballet or anything like, right? Like in terms of the time, in terms of the vocabulary. Now, we've got like 50 plus years of history, right? What do you think needs to happen to bring these street styles to bigger audiences that aren't? Because right now I see street dancers as mostly performing for themselves, right? Which has a certain kind of beauty to it, but is also limiting, especially for those who want to get out there another audience in terms of making a living. And in terms of just straight up, I feel like more people in the world are more interested in this than and I'm not trying to establish a hierarchy. Right. I'm just saying I feel like the potential of audience is way huger than it is for something like ballet or contemporary.
Right.
So do you have any vision or any thoughts on what boundaries there exist or how to break down those boundaries or what needs to happen to take this stuff to new audiences on stages that are regarded as, art stages?
Yeah, I mean, so if I'm going based off of what our company has done, versus style, like the founders, Miss Funk Breeze Lee, what they have done is they have basically put themselves in spaces for years where they were the only street dance representatives. So they didn't.
For what kind of space? Can you give an example?
So we're talking like Lee's mom was a ballet dancer, has a ballet studio. So he would find himself as a street dancer. Obviously he has a background where he learned some ballet, but he would bring the street dance to that ballet studio. And he was like the only street dancer teaching hip hop at a ballet studio for like, in at least in that area or at that studio for like years, right? And then it kind of translated to like Jackie being at UCLA, where there was no hip hop, there was no street dance back in the day. Especially most institutions that had dance didn't have street styles. So she was this one, Latina chick in a university setting where, again, all of the dance background was Eurocentric, Euro-focused. She kept bringing her street styles into those spaces, into those classrooms. When she had to do projects, she didn't do ballet and contemporary that she was learning in class. She was doing the styles of movement that came from her neighborhoods. So when it was time to have a showcase for the students, they were seeing hip hop, they were seeing house, they were seeing popping. So she was like taking these styles and putting them in these areas that like folks have never seen these styles done in that way. But she was also taking like the knowledge that she got from more structured, codified dance in the university setting, and kind of like bridge the gap there. So she's like, I can choreograph and create composition with the movement, but the essence of it and the actual techniques of the movement are going to stick with the actual style, right? So being basically some of the first people in these spaces is how you get the word out and then expand the style. Because I think a lot of times, especially in the street dance community, because it's so community focused, we like to be where our friends are at. We like to be like where, you know, we feel like we're going to be understood the most and respected the most, right? So it's going to take some of those folks doing the hard work to go in the spaces where you're probably not going to be understood. You might be questioned. You might your art form might not be respected for a while, but then the more you show, the more you prove, that's when you start captivating people, you know? So, and thankfully from, you know, both Jackie and Lee, like their experience and their history, because even Lee, like he toured with John Tesh, who I think was like a big like Christian like pastor, but he also like did like these big concerts where it's like it's not really hip hop.
John Tesh actually he did all kinds of stuff.
He did multiple things, right?
Well, do you remember the original? He did the original NBA theme music.
Oh right,
not the one they use now.
Okay.
But the one, but like he did film and TV composition and pop music.
Right. So
and
So I
actually didn't even know he had a Christian.
I think that's what I heard, that there was something like that involved. But I just know that Lee was basically in this space and performing on stage with like John Tesh. You know what I mean? Where like his demographic is not that, or maybe his demographic has a big Christian fan base. I don't know, but like his demographic isn't hip hop and street dance.
Right.
But then you have Lee popping and hitting waves and glides on stage with him, right? And then people are like, "What is this? Like we've never seen this." Fused with this thing that we recognize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it's a music or just an environment. So yeah, that's what it's gonna take. And again, it's the inspiration from Jackie Lee obviously came from Rennie Harris, who was like one of the, you know, either if not the original, one of the first people to ever put street dance on stage. Like he's a pioneer for hip hop concert dance.
Okay, I didn't know this. So just for some context for the audience, I mean, we know at this point that you work for and are part of Versatile dance company. That was founded by Jackie Lopez and Breeze Lee. So when we're throwing these names back and forth, just to give some context. So I was not aware of this. So she was influenced by...
So Versatile founded in 2005 by Jackie Lopez, Lee Fawad, also known as street dancers Miss Funk and Breeze Lee. One of their... like immediate teachers that inspired them to pursue concert dance and creating a dance company using street dance was Rennie Harris. So he had his group, and he's still touring today with Rennie Harris. He had Rennie Harris Raw and Pure Movement, which were literally street dance like theater groups in the 90s. Like 90s into the early 2000s, and they're still around today. But really, he was creating a breakthrough back then. 20, 30 years ago. No one had ever seen a group do that on stage for like a whole concert performance. Like, you know, because a lot of our OGs and pioneers, they did perform on stage with artists and things like that. They did, you know, get on TV and have group numbers on shows. So it's not like nobody has ever done that before, but like there's a difference between being on TV, you know what I mean, or being with an artist, being in a music video, and having a 1 hour concert dance show where people buy tickets just to see street dancers on stage for an hour. There's a big difference between doing that and, you know, dancing for an artist or being an opening act for a big, you know, TV film thing. And again, not to take away from that, but it's just like a different realm that like no one has really tapped into or seen at that time when Rennie Harris was doing it. And since then, of course, Versatile, we're not the only street dance theater company. There's street dance theater companies all around the world, and there's also various ones here in the States, but it's still a minority compared to when you watch a dance stage show, 90% of the time you're going to get ballet and contemporary and even maybe other cultural styles like African dance. But like hip hop is always going to be, has always been like, you just have that one hip hop number for like 5 minutes, but then the whole rest of the hour is all the other styles.
How long have you been touring with Versus Style as a performer?
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years. And
Yeah.
have you found yourself getting booked for gigs or shows that you show up and you're like, oh wow, nobody was expecting this? Is that part of what you do? Are you
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You have a good example of that?
Well, and especially me, because since 2017, I've also been like my title is the artistic director of touring and events. So I'm the booking manager. I'm like a tour manager.
Right.
So I'm the ones talking to these theaters, working along with our agent, our other booking manager to like, you know, basically sell and promote our show and promote it to audiences and like talk about the details of what our presentations are going to be. And a lot of the times we arrive to a place where they're like, you are the first hip hop dance group that has ever been on our stage. And we have had this theater open for 20 years.
And is this like summer season type stuff, or like how are you getting?
It depends.
You know what I mean? Like how are you getting in there?
Yeah, it really depends. Different venues have different booking seasons. I mean, a lot that we've been finding that we get booked actually mostly in spring and fall because we get booked a lot by universities. So obviously Jackie and Lee having been UCLA, the whole university space, they've branched out and made many connections in the university space. So a lot of universities have big performing arts centers and theaters.
Sure.
And in some towns, the university is the performing arts.
Yes.
There is no
Yeah,
separate
that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like you go, if you want to watch performing arts, you have to go to the school to watch it. So a lot of times we have connections in that way with the performing arts university space, and we then we end up being like the hip hop group that actually gets to be on stage and perform for the community and teach classes to the students. And, you know, they might have a dance teacher that like kind of knows hip hop, and they might teach 1 or 2 classes in a semester, but they don't have the full breadth of access usually when it comes to hip hop and street dance. So we've been lucky enough to be able to at least give a lot of communities around the country like a taste of like what street dance culture.
Because you always pair an educational component with the performance, right?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
So all of our performances, we have different ways we perform. Usually our public like evening performances are more like entertainment, narrative, story based. But then usually we like to request that we work with students and schools or families. And our student matinee show is like 100% hip hop history edutainment. You know, we're going through.
I've seen some of this.
You've probably seen some of it.
Yeah.
So we're going through the salsa and the African, through the Soul Train era, into 80s and 90s hip hop, all the way to today. Like we go through the whole timeline. I am one of the MCs for that show, along with Harry Full Out. We split MCing the show and just sharing education on what hip hop and street dance culture and history is. Like we have a handout that we send out to schools that they can print and all the students can read and get some information about hip hop history. Like, so education is a big driving force for what we do. Yeah. And that's kind of like what we base a lot of our work as a company on. Is
honestly, that's what I thought. My first exposure to Versus Style was at one of your annual weekends.
Yeah.
When I went to that, I didn't really understand that you were a touring dance company. I really thought because your community outreach is so strong, and because you always involve the youth, and like you can just see kids just really flourishing in this environment. I thought that was what you did mainly, right?
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was this whole touring professional performing artist component to the thing. So for me, as just someone who supports you and admires you and like goes to your events, I really think that's the most powerful thing you do. Yeah. Right. But then again, like to be able to tour as a professional dancer is like, it's just unbelievable, right? Right. I want to get into your personal background, but since we're on this thread, can we just talk for a minute about your funding situation? Not because I think that's like the most interesting thing in the world, but because I think people often just don't even think about it. Yeah. Like, oh, look, they're running around. It's like this all takes money.
Yeah.
So where do you get your funding? And I'd also like, do you have any, like, is your funding being affected by the current environment?
Yeah, so Versatile, we've been set up as a 501c3 nonprofit entity. So all of our funding comes from a mix of private and public donors. Most of our funding base has come from, a good percentage, but there's stipulations. You can't get too much from a private foundation, or else your organization becomes part of that foundation. So we have basically an angel donor that we've had for many, many years, who's a personal friend of our company, personal friend of Jackie and Lee, who has given, her family foundation has given us a big chunk of money to help us with our programming. But then we also rely just on the public. We rely on our community. So we rely on the donations we receive on an annual basis just from folks like you, fellow dancers who might want to support our work, folks in the educational space, local arts politicians. So we kind of have to put our feelers in a lot of different spaces outside of dance.
Are you not doing grant out? Because I know Jack
And
has
we
a
do
strong
grants. Yeah. So
background in grant writing.
Yeah.
And
So grants and grant writing is also a big part of it as well. And that's kind of what I mean. Like when we have to put our feelers out outside of, like, let's just rely on dance money. Because to run a full operation with a bunch of programming throughout the school district, offering free to low cost classes for kids, that takes money that we're not necessarily bringing the money back in.
And having a staff, like you guys have real jobs with like benefits.
Yeah, I was saying having a staff with salary. Like I'm one of the staff members with salary. Yeah, that takes a lot. So throughout the whole year, it's grants, it's fundraising pushes, it's donor relations, it's how do we get into this arts policy space. Like, so we've been in government buildings connecting with folks who are in arts and politics to see, like, what is out there for arts organizations in the community serving the youth. We've been in other university spaces, trying to see, like, what opportunities are out there, who supports the arts, who are maybe higher up in university spaces, you know what I mean? Like, folks, you gotta find folks who love what we're doing and have a little bit extra income, you know what I mean, to do it. So we're just kind of like on a constant flow of networking and connecting and building bridges with people, explaining what our work is and showing folks the impact of our work. Because I think it's really the impact of our work that speaks the loudest. Like, we can talk all day and show numbers and stuff, but it's not until you actually show up to our event, you see the kids dancing, you see all the students we've been working with for like, you see us dabbing up all of our friends, and there's like 500 people in the room. They're like, wow, they're friends with all 500 people in this room. Not only that,
but like, you go to an event and like, you guys are all there on time. You're all greeting everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you're not like a kid anymore, but I know you have a whole younger generation that you're bringing up, right? The versatile next generation. And you go to those events and, like, they're all on point and doing what they're supposed to do and doing, like, the things that people dream that their children will do.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that that's a big part of your mission.
Right.
To just, like, these things, like, if you see it but if it's not there, you recognize it, right?
Right.
If it's not there, you recognize it. But I think that's one of the more impressive things too.
Yeah. We like to be professional. And I think because that's one of the things too, is like, we like to show that, like, street dance should be respected the same way every other art form is. So we want to keep that level of professionalism the same way you would expect from other folks. Like, you shouldn't go to a street dance event and just expect it to be casual, laid back. Everybody's late. Things aren't running on time. Things are unorganized because, it's just hip hop. Street, like, that stigma has been something we've been trying to break so heavily for the past 20 years of being an organization. And I think we've done pretty well with doing it.
No, I mean,
you know what I mean?
I'm not just, that's why I said it. Like, it's like really obvious. And I wasn't even thinking of I think artists in general have this reputation.
Right.
Right. And I think it's mostly BS because really, sure, there's a few extremely high profile artists who can do whatever the heck they want.
Right.
But in general, if you don't show up on time and if you don't write the grant properly, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah,
right?
and it's true. Like, I'm about to say, like, it's
like being any other kind of job.
Like any other job, you have to have the same level of professionalism. So I think it's just been a narrative that's been around for a long time. And again, like you said, so many people in our community are high quality professionals. But that
You mean in the street dance community?
In the street dance community, yeah.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
because again, they're not going to be able to work if they're not, right?
Absolutely.
But the stigma has still been attached because there are folks who maybe aren't as on it and organized in the community.
Sure.
And it's like that with everywhere.
But if you go to a restaurant, there's people who work at that restaurant who are
aren't, and then so,
it, right?
but it's like, you know, so, but if people, their first mindset when they show up to an event is like, oh yeah, it's cool, but man, they were disorganized. I guess that's just hip hop. Like, you know, we want to kind of have a standard and emphasize the standard. Like, you know, this isn't like a versatile thing. It's like we all should be handling things at this standard. Like we should all as a community be showing people like we are as professional and we are as on top of it and as deserving as any other art form and industry that's creative. And it shows in the work.
It really does.
You know what I mean? So
it shows in the people.
And then the people,
that's like
of course.
the thing that. So how did you come? Like, where did you grow up? First of all.
Yeah, so I grew up in the city of Azusa.
Azusa?
Yeah, so that's San Gabriel Valley, near Covina, West Covina, Glendora, that whole pocket.
Yes.
So Azusa's right in the center. Head down the 210 freeway, heading to like San Bernardino. You see the big Azusa sign on the side of the freeway. That's my hood.
Yeah.
That I grew up in. Yeah. Grew up and basically lived there my entire life until I went to college. But I started like dancing there. I just
started dancing in Azusa.
Yeah, I started dancing in Azusa.
What can I don't mean to cut you off. We'll get into the college thing.
Yeah.
What can you identify or do you have a strong first memory of dance? Like the thing that where you're like connected with you and, you know, like, I want to pursue this.
So what's funny is when my first experiences with dance actually was me not wanting to dance, like, at all. So I grew up in a family.
Typical American dude.
Right.
I can resonate with that.
Totally. Like, I was totally the kid who just wanted to, like, play video games all day. Maybe play some sports, but, like, that's about it. Like, but I did grow up in a musical family. I grew up in a family with an uncle who was a DJ who was spinning basically and practicing his sets every day, all day, in the house. I had another uncle who played the piano. I had, you know, singers and then at family parties, if you've ever been to a Filipino party, you know we love to sing karaoke and dance. So
that is true.
Yeah, so I'm half Filipino, so like, and I grew up with my Filipino side of the family. So all of our family parties had 100 people like dancing, doing salsa, doing 80s dances at family
parties. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh man, so here's again funny. I hated doing the karaoke too. Now I'm starting to like karaoke.
I like it.
So I don't have a go-to single song, but there's like an era where you will really like get me, which is like usually early 2000s. Like, or late 90s pop and R&B. Like, you can get me certain songs, you can get me to just like sing and crack my voice in a really terrible way because I can't sing to save my life. One of the first genres that really did something was like hip hop, you know, and actually knowing it as hip hop and the culture of hip hop, like actually knowing rap, and it was a very specific genre of rap too. It was like what we call backpack rap. So this was like the Lupe Fiasco, Cool Kids, Kid Cudi, like the nerdy guys who became rappers era versus like the I'm gangster, like I'm hard. Earl, dude, Earl Sweatshirt, Tyler the Creator, Odd Future, like that was my. Like, that's where I started getting into the culture.
Did you ever think Tyler the Creator would become the hugest? I mean, he's one of the top 10 music giants of the planet right now.
Yeah, no. Because I was listening to him when he was his first album, when he was an angsty teen, like saying crazy stuff on a mic that I could relate to.
So that was your thing.
You know what I mean?
You were kind of into that.
I was into Mac Miller. Like, I was into Rest in Peace. Like, I was into like that era. I started moving after I started falling in love with the music, because then I saw that being translated to like dancers and like America's Best Dance Crew. So like so I watched Everything You Could Dance, and I did start feeling like, like when I saw the hip hop routines, like there was a year where they had Krumpers on because Little Steve was a Krumper and he was one of the judges in the first couple of seasons. And so he would bring Krumpers on stage, and I was just like, what is this? This is crazy. Like, it did something to me. And it was like in middle school when I was discovering all of this. My mom put me in a dance class, but I hated it because I was the only boy, and the dance teacher was a woman, and she was doing like feminine hip hop, and I was like, this is not what I want to do. I want to do the stuff that was on TV. Like I want to do the stuff that.
How long did you last?
It was a summer program, so it's probably like.
Okay. So you did finish the program.
So I did finish the program, but it was like a month maybe.
Okay.
I think they were going to continue it, and I was like, I'm out. So like, I was gone. So I hated. So again, I'm telling you, my first experiences with.
And you're like 13, 12 at this time, like how? Okay.
Yeah, probably 12, 13. Yeah. So my first experiences with music and dance and all of that, I was just like, nah. But it was, it was seeing the stuff that connected with the music and the look and the feel, like the aesthetic that I was already into is what then drew me into dance. You know, seeing Krumpers and all that energy and how like explosive they were, I was like, yo, that's cool. Seeing dudes wave and glide and flip and like the whole Jabberwockies, like I was the biggest Jabberwockies fan. Like I'm telling you, like the masks, the shirts, I wore Jabberwockies clothes to school. I wore Super Crew clothes. It's like all of like these OG America's Best Dance Crew. Like I collected their shirts. So Real Crew, I wore all of that to school, and people are like, "What are these things you're wearing?"
So then, were you like practicing alone in your bedroom? Like when did you actually start?
So it was basically that era of like when all that was on. I was just kind of like, "Ooh, those are cool moves." I would just watch and then like do a thing or two. But then a friend in middle school, he happened to be learning how to dance, do like street dance styles from his like older brother, who was into breaking. So he learned a little bit of breaking, but then he like knowing I was into dance, like getting into dance, he started like showing me stuff too, like, oh, there's this YouTube channel where they show you these couple moves. So we would like watch the YouTube channel, just try the moves, and if a school dance came around, it would just be me and him like freestyling in the corner or like jumping in the dance circle and just like going crazy. Like
the dance circle where?
At school, in middle school.
Okay, so you had, at this point, you're broken through and you're like doing it in front of others.
Yeah, but only because I had a friend doing it with me. If I had to do it by myself, I was like, nah, bro. Like, I was a wallflower. Like, in middle school, when my first couple school dances, I was the kid who just sat on the wall and just did this. And it wasn't until this progression of music and dance started hitting me when I was like maybe 13, 14, and I had that friend who got me up to move with him, where then I was like, okay. Then I started putting myself out there. Then when there was a dance, like there was a dance circle, it was me like getting in there doing all my moves and whatever. But it's funny because that's what actually led to my dance career. Because again, I was doing it for fun. I didn't even want to be a professional dancer. I just liked doing it. I thought it was cool.
You're going through high school. Were you starting to get like going to actual battles and getting more involved in the actual culture?
Yeah. So when high school came around, my high school actually had was trying to, for the first time, start a dance team with boys in it. Because before, the high school dance team only had girls. So it happened that my freshman year was the first year they were trying to recruit boys.
Nice.
And obviously, getting boys to dance is really tough. But there was a school dance. Especially there was like the freshman beginning of the year dance. I went to it because I was just like, cool, let me go to this dance. And there happened to be like a dance competition at the dance. And then people who came from the same middle school as me went to that high school because it was all in the same city. Were telling like the folks who were like organizing the dance, like, yo, there's this guy from my middle school. He was such a good dancer. He would freestyle in middle school, blah, blah. He needs to join this dance competition. So then they pushed me into it. Like the guys who were organizing it told me like, dude, we're starting a dance team. Like we need you, da 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 da. And then we joined this dance competition. So I did the whole thing. I don't even remember if I won or not. I either won or I got second place. I don't know. And then they were basically on the spot recruited me for the guys' dance team. Yeah. From there, I only really danced in my city. We did like high school competitions, choreography. It was mostly choreography. Sure. Like I was one of the few guys who could freestyle. Maybe like 2 or 3 of us on the team could freestyle. And there was moments where we had freestyle sessions as just the guys. Like the girls didn't do freestyle, but our male crew would like freestyle and do crazy stuff. But it just happened that at the end of my freshman year, one of the last competitions we ever went to, Jackie Lopez at that time was also a director of a high school dance team. So we went to the same competition, and my team competed against her team. And one of her, like her team, like there was other people competing, but like we were in the same bracket basically. And what I didn't realize is at that time she was also scouting high school students for the UCLA intensive. So the UCLA at the time had a dance theater program that she was spearheading, that she was directing. So she was at these dance competitions, obviously running her team, but also recruiting even students from other places that she saw potential for this UCLA program. So she saw me, and she saw a couple of other my guys on the dance team, and she was like, "Yo, we need more boys. We would love you guys." Da 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 da. So she recruited us that year. I went to UCLA, and that's when I met some other members from VersaStyle that I still dance with today. This was like 2009 or 10,
Wow.
around there. So I met some of those folks. Yeah, I think it was 2010.
So did you go to UCLA as a dance major?
No.
Okay.
So I didn't end up going to UCLA as a dance major because I wanted to pursue business. I've always kind of like, again, dance was never like a mindset career for me.
Right.
I just kind of fell into it and kept going.
Yeah.
So I went to school for business when I went to college, but I was dancing through the whole time. I was dancing with VersaStyle because after the UCLA program, they brought me to the VSNG summer intensive, and from there, they put me officially into VSNG.
At that time, was VersaStyle touring or was it all local?
VersaStyle was beginning to tour international. Okay. Like I think they had like 1 or 2 times they traveled outside of the state. You know what I mean? Or like national or international, but they were still pretty local. Like they would do like San Francisco Hip Hop Festival, like things like that. It wasn't touring the way we are now.
So you were a full-time student.
Yeah.
And were you commuting or were you living in
when I started doing VersaStyle Next Generation, I was in high school. So really it was my mom being the biggest blessing in my life.
Shout out to mom.
Shout out to mom. This is all because of you, mom. Like she would drive me to all my dance stuff. Like she would work or have her day off, and she's like, "Oh, you have dance rehearsal?" She would drive me, and I was on multiple teams at the time too. I wasn't just on VersaStyle. I was part of another team. I was part of my high school team. So she was driving me to rehearsals all week, all around LA, because I just fell in love with dance at that time. So first it was my mom, and then once I finally got my own car, then it was me. I was in college, and that's when I was really driving. And when I got to college, I went to Cal State Fullerton, so I was in Orange County. Commuting from up. Oh, okay, cool. Nice. All right, yeah. So I was a Titan at CSUF.
Go Titans, that's right.
Go Titans. And I was already being offered positions when I was in college. So Jackie and VersaStyle were already like, they were working with so many different schools in LA. They were like, "Hey, we need more teachers. Like, are you down to teach? Start some dance programs in these schools." So I was already working in a teaching capacity while I was in college. But then probably like 2014, 15-ish, they started wanting to put me on stage with them. They were just like, they were trying to move all of us that we were in VersaStyle Next Generation up to VersaStyle Company. So it was around that time where I started actually like then performing and touring with them. That was like my first, I think, 2-3 years in college. I started actually then like having to manage touring and traveling for a week and not being at school and then coming back and or skipping some performances because I have a final, I have a midterm that week. Right. So I had to manage that whole lifestyle.
You're basically like a student athlete.
The
athlete's separate from the school.
Yeah, I was a student athlete separate from the school, but it was like a student artist. Student professional artist. So I basically had to create that lifestyle. But that's when like dance started being like, oh, this is like something that's actually putting money in my pocket. Like now I'm actually paying my bills using dance. So this is cool. Because I was also trying to manage part-time jobs at like the mall and stuff in between gigs. So I was trying to manage all this stuff. But then like when dance money started coming in, and I was like, oh, I could leave this part-time job. I don't have to work retail. Even though retail is cool, I don't have to work retail. I can just book a gig. I could just teach. I was like, let me just do this. You know what I mean? And get through school. But and basically what had happened was once I graduated, the school programs that I had, I just went more full in. Like I just started teaching more because now my schedule was open. So I started taking on more school programs. Then VersaStyle, then Jackie and Lee were like, "Hey, our company's growing. We have some more roles to fill. Would you be interested in like planning our events? Because me and Lee are like doing so many things. It would be really helpful if we had a team that helps us."
Organizational mindset.
And I had the organizational mindset from school and business school, whatever. So she's like organizing events for our community and doing all this. So then I took on that role. So I just had like kind of like multiple part-time dance-related jobs where I was like, sometimes I was on stage touring, sometimes I was planning an event, getting paid to plan an event, sometimes I was teaching. So I kind of balanced those three things, and then the odd jobs in between if I needed to.
All this time when you're doing all this that you're describing, how were you like getting like? Did you have mentors outside of? I mean, I know Versatile, Breeze and Jack, your mentors at some level, but did you have other, mentors that were specialized in particular styles, or were you just growing organically throughout all of this?
Yeah, my growth was very organic, I would say. Like,
did you have like favorite dancers that you would go check out or try to learn from whenever possible?
Yeah. I mean, there was, again, like there was certain dance feels or dance styles that I was just kind of naturally falling into. Like, again, I really loved obviously the Jabberwocky, so I would even go take classes from like Jabberwocky's members if they were at a thing. You know what I mean? But then obviously I loved Versatile, and Versatile was like one of the greatest platforms because they would bring OGs to come teach us. So then I would take all of those classes from all the OGs and all these different styles.
Do you have a memorable story from like, because I've seen a lot of quote unquote OGs teach over the years, and some of them, there's just a lot of different styles. I wonder if you have any memorable examples of somebody who, I don't know, taught you something or taught with a certain style that was really memorable, whether it was good or bad, or or one that's like your most impactful OG of all time kind of person.
Dang, most impactful OG. I mean, it's hard to say.
Try to get some history into this thing.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, so the OG I think I've consistently worked with the most has been Buddha Stretch. Taking his class. Again, I think I was actually in VSNG when I took my first class from Stretch.
Was he living out here? Because he lives in the East Coast now,
yeah,
right?
he lives in New Jersey. I think he's always been living in the East Coast. But he would come out here to like judge and teach events, and then Versatile would also bring him out to do stuff out here. So I've been working with or in different capacities, either having him at our events or just learning from him. I even worked with him on Steezy. I've worked with Stretch because Stretch did the whole like Hip Hop 101 program, and I was one of his assistants on Steezy Studio's platform. Like, so I've worked with Stretch in different capacities over the years. So he's probably of all the like OGs, I could say I'm the closest with. Like, I have his phone number. I could like text Big Bro Stretch, hey Stretch, what's up? But I think outside of him, some other like OGs that were like really impactful with I think how I dance and move and how I like felt music was Marjorie Smarth. May she rest in peace. She's a dance fusion house OG. She was like one of the first women to roll with dance fusion.
This is great because like I'm definitely trying to build this history.
Yeah.
And then I will link out to these
for sure
various people as well.
Yeah. So Marjorie Smarth, she's not with us anymore, but she was like a very, very close mentor to Jackie as like a woman in street dance. And then Jackie brought her to LA Jackie Lee brought her to LA a couple times to really share with us and share her heart. And just like seeing her energy and her vibe, that's what made house dance feel like an emotional and a spiritual experience for me. Because I think before then, house dance was fun. It was cool, but it was really high energy. It was like push. It was like cardio. It was like push your body, learn the techniques. Because that's just our style at Versatile.
Yeah,
we really push.
Plus that music itself.
It's so...
That's kind of the aesthetic of the music, right?
But Marjorie brought lightness. She brought grace. She brought flow to the style. And when I saw her dance and learned her style, her movement, I was like, oh, I can just like loosen up and get abstract and creative with my movement and just flow. And I think that affected my dance for like all my styles. So all my styles, I started trying to find flow in all of my styles.
What styles do you consider yourself fluent in?
House, hip hop, Krump. And honestly, I'm fluent enough in popping. Like, I've entered popping battles before. Popping's probably like the least style that I focus in, but like those four I would probably say I'm the most fluent in. And just, movements in other styles, but I wouldn't say I'm fluent or professional at it, but I'm pretty confident specifically in house, hip hop, and krump.
Okay.
And then popping's like a fourth, you know? So yeah, and then besides her, it'd also be Showtime. So Showtime, he's another East Coast. He's like a generation, I would say, after. I think he's a generation after Stretch. I might be wrong, but I don't think he's their exact generation. He might be like a generation after, but he kind of was in his own lane. He did his own thing. He's kind of a hip hop dance historian in his own right, where he went to a lot of different regions of the United States and learned their social dances.
Oh wow!
So he's the one who kind of like blew my mind, because I was used to, you know, a lot of like 80s, 90s East Coast hip hop vocabulary, party dance from, you know, Elite Force, Buddha Stretch, Link, all of them.
Even though
I was here on the West Coast.
You're a SoCal kid.
Yeah, even though I'm a SoCal kid, what I knew from SoCal was poppin' and krump. Like I knew those. I didn't know like hip hop, but I also didn't know hip hop from the South or the Midwest. And then so Showtime was like, there's East Coast, there's Midwest, there's South. These are the names. These are the styles. These are this. Like every time I take Showtime's class, I feel like I don't know how to dance. Even now, if I take class from Showtime, he's gonna do some grooves and like body pockets that I'm like, I can't do this, dude. Like his body has so many different flows and a combination of regional styles in it that is just like, it's just bizarre. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh, how?
So can we get into a style that is from here that I know is a big part of your life, right? You are a krumper. You're part of Beast Camp. Shout out to Beast. I will definitely be inviting you into this room in the near future.
Big homie.
Yeah, what a great guy. And how does that work that you become part of, you know, like one can participate in Beast Camp, but how does it come about that you become part of it? Just real quick.
Yeah,
and then I
yeah.
want to ask you something else.
Yeah, so in krump culture, once you've basically been in the space and trained and showed face and showed kind of like a dedication to rolling with a certain group for long enough, if the big homie wants to bring you in, they say they're gonna put you on. So you go through a put on, and a put on is, well, we'll say it does reflect gang culture, because getting jumped in.
Yeah.
So we do have to remember that a lot of these street styles branch from gang culture. It took a lot of aspects from gang culture, but made it a safe, like more holistic thing. So you do a put on where you get battled into the fam.
And when did you officially become part of the fam?
Yeah, so when did I join Beast Camp? I think 2017.
Okay.
I think 2017 is when I officially joined Beast Camp.
Oh, wow.
It was me and I think 2 or 3 other guys got put on at the same time as me. So we had to battle each other, and then we had to battle the current Beast Camp members that were there in LA.
Oh, well, so you've been for a while.
Yeah.
So this is great, because what I really wanted to get into is what Krump says about Los Angeles. Like what, you know, you're talking about how the styles, you know, come, like they kind of reflect the culture. I'm just curious, like, because the Krump style has become so. I mean, it's an amazing thing to experience, right? Like, I know the first time I saw it, I was like, "What is this?" And then I've been to some battles, and the catharsis that goes on is like there's really nothing like it. And I'm just kind of. Yeah, do you have anything to say about why you like? What does this say about Los Angeles? Like, why does Krump represent? Like, because it's become, as far as I can tell, it seems to be the style that most people want to do right now. Like, if they're dancers, and you know, of course, people get out there, they'll throw it in, and I know there's a lot of controversy, but people want to be involved in the style in some way, like in a way that I don't really see. It seems to be the global style that is the most desirable right now.
Yeah, a lot of people are gravitating to Krump right now.
I don't know, do you have any thoughts on like its birth in Los Angeles, what it says about the culture here, either the general culture or the dance culture?
Yeah. I would say it's like 3 things that I've noticed about Krump. And like its origins that kind of affects why it's becoming this thing that people are gravitating to. One is like Krump looks the way it does because it was from the hood. Like, it was created in the hood. It was created in South LA. It was created in the midst of gang culture, right? the OGs were like trying to stay away from the violence and the drugs and things like that. So the energy of Krump was them taking the energy from the streets and letting it out in a healthy way instead of going running the streets and letting energy out, causing mayhem. You know what I mean? They were like, we're not gonna, like, instead of doing that, let's just dance it out, basically. So that's why a lot of the energy behind Krump is a lot of aggression. It is a lot of release, a lot of catharsis, because it was releasing the trauma that was created from coming from those neighborhoods. And what I realized is that a lot of people are looking for raw expression in dance right now and release in dance, because dance has become so mainstream and recognized worldwide and codified that a lot of people are going into dance to look pretty now, to look pretty, to get some clout, get some money, make a career. It's all about looks, not about feel. And Krump is like, once you learn how to Krump, like, that is a dance that when it comes to feeling your body and feeling your emotions, that's probably like top tier. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing like just making a crazy face and swinging your arms and then jumping 5 feet in the air and having 50 people screaming at you at a session and you're just bugging and you're blacking out. Like, there's not many other dance styles that are going to ever give you that feeling. So I think a lot of people are looking for that feeling right now, to feel alive dancing that way, you know? So yeah, but I would say, like, and but Krump is also a style, and this comes from Miss Prissy. Shout out to Miss Prissy, OG, the queen. She would say that the word Krump also came from the idea of crumpling multiple styles of movement and feelings together into one form of movement, right? So Miss Prissy she brought ballet into Krump because she was ballet trained.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other, like, you know, Miho, tie-dyes, like other folks, like, or especially like Miho, he was like a fighter, like he did MMA. So like there was also the aggression of like the jabs, you know what I mean, like boxing jabs, right? Like, so there was like
Ruin's a boxer too.
Ruin's
right?
a boxer too, right? So the idea of jabbing in Krump comes from fighting, from boxing, you know? So there is like, Krump also gives a space where, like, as long as you understand the foundation, the way you do the foundation, the style asks you to bring in your personal background into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you've learned a jab. This is your jab. You shoot your arm straight out. Now, with all the dance training or the movement training, sports, whatever you've done in your life, how would you jab? And how would you bring those ideas from those other movements into your jab? And that's what Krumpers look for. They don't look for how technical you are. They look for how unique you are. They look for how much you look like you're dancing like you. You know what I mean? We care more.
Dancing.
You're dancing. We
like,
care.
That's the
we
thing.
care
right?
about feeling.
Yeah.
We care about feeling vastly more than we care about your technique. Because anybody can drill technique in Krump and have clean lines and clean poses, but if there's no feeling behind them, we're just like, we can tell you're just copying movement.
Right.
We want you to be in the craziest, ugliest position, but we know you're telling your life story, and it's bringing all of us in to it. So I think that is a reflection of like where Krump came from. Again, LA is such a diverse place.
What was your first exposure to it?
So my first exposure to Krump was like when I was like in middle school, like watching the America's Best Dance Crews, because Street Kingdom was on America's Best Dance Crew, which my big homie Beast was on Street Kingdom on the show. And then there was also, the YouTube videos, like with my friend who showing me like Krumpers on YouTube, like really old, some OG Krump DVD stuff. That I can't even remember which ones I watched, but like watching that, I was like, this is so cool. But my in-person experience actually learning how to Krump properly was with At Your Beast, my big homie. I just happened to, because I was in the dance team choreography scene when I was first starting, mixed with street dance. So I was kind of like in both communities at the same time. Somebody who I danced with on the like community choreo team side happened to go to the same university that Beast went to, Biola University. Biola, yeah. And he was like, yo, bro, I know you love freestyling, you love Krump and popping all these styles, and we have this guy named Beast. He's like you know, really big in Krump, and you know, he's with one of the creators of Krump, blah blah blah, like, and he's teaching. So like, you know, he's teaching at my university. If you're down to come, and I was like, yeah. He was like, baby, because at the time, Beast, when he was still under Ches, he was baby tie-dye, so he was just like, yeah, that's how I knew him as baby tie-dye is cool. So I went to go take his class in Biola, and from then, even after that first class, like we kind of clicked. Like we had some funny moments, we had some moments of like really hyping each other up in the session, and he was like, bro, at any point, like I'm gonna be teaching. If I'm teaching around LA, if you want, just hit me up. You know what I mean? So I just, every time I saw him teach, I was like, I can go to your class this day. Bro, can you get me into your class? He's like, yeah, come through. And I just kept taking class with him.
Did you find that when you started really getting into it that you had to let go of some of your preconceived notions of dance, or did that actually help you? The reason I ask this is because when I watch Krumpers, the best Krumpers, I'm always super, super entranced by the level of dance within all that craziness. Right now, like you said, it's maybe not necessarily about that, but of course, the top dancers are great dancers, right?
Yeah.
And so I love to see that, because to me, that's just this amazing art form, right? It's this amazing combination of things that comes with this. So you, and I know you're one of these people, you know, I've seen you, and you're like, it's not just energy with you. There's a lot of, like, you dance, right? So did you have to let go of a lot of things? Or did it just work for you? Do you know what I'm saying? Does this make sense?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. So I think at first, to get the techniques down and do things the quote unquote Krump way, I had to suppress the way I moved from other styles.
Okay.
Because even me, that was a note that I got a lot when I first started crumping. They're like, you know, I know you're learning the styles, but you look like you're doing other styles. You don't look like you're doing Krump yet. You know what I mean? You look like an all-styles dancer that's trying to Krump and not a Krumper. You know what I mean? And again, there's a mixed ideas about what that comment means. Like, because some people were like, that's not even what Krump is about. Like, you should look like yourself. You know, you shouldn't look like a Krumper, because we're not supposed to look the same, right? But I also know that there's a certain feeling, there's a certain movement approach that experienced Krumpers have that maybe newer Krumpers don't have yet, and you can tell. Like, you can tell when someone is doing Krump and they've been doing it for years versus someone who's just starting. And it's not a technique thing. It's like it's just like it comes down to their feeling, but also like their way they place movement. So Krump has a certain way of like how you place movements together that like really connects the movements together and making it look like, oh, that's kind of like what we recognize as Krump. Like, you know, being able to pose and have this position and then break it and then bang, like all those little combos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you get high level in Krump, you're like, oh, that's Krump. If someone's just throwing their body around and then mixing in their glides and stuff from other styles, you're like, you're learning Krump when you're there, but you don't look like you have Krump put together yet. So I wanted to have put together Krump. I wanted my movement to look like, you know, what Krumpers were used to seeing, just at least at the beginning. So I did try to not bring too much of my other movements in at first, but once I felt like I had the basics of Krump down, I was like, then let me just move.
Then you're a dancer.
Then like I'm a dancer.
Yeah.
And again, my big homie Beast, he was one of the people who like kind of shot down that mindset that maybe some other people in the Krump community told me of like, you don't really look like a Krumper. Like he was like, nah, bro, you are an amazing dancer. You are one of the best. You are actually a better dancer than most Krumpers. So he's like, dance.
Right.
You know the Krump technique. You can drill that all day. Now dance.
But you were smart to learn. I mean, I think for any art form, like learning the foundation.
Yes.
Right? It's like that famous Miles Davis quote, like, learn everything and then forget it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, Miles Davis went to Juilliard, you know? Like,
yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
Thelonious Monk went to Juilliard, right? So, you learn this stuff and then
you let go of what wasn't part of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so that's what I did with every dance style I've learned. Every dance style I've learned as much of it as I could, and then I have head knowledge that I can like pull out a movement if I need to, but like it's not part of my dance if it didn't resonate with me, if it didn't stick with me. So just because I have 60 vocabulary hip hop party dances in my head doesn't mean when you tell me to freestyle, you're gonna see all 60. You're gonna see like 2.
That'd be interesting.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, no, I'm not about to give you the Rolodex of party dances, bro. I'm gonna give you like 2 or 3, maybe, and I'm just gonna move. I'm just gonna groove. I'm gonna hit positions and angles and flows. Like, that's what I do. That's my style of movement. But I always like to learn the foundation first and have that as a base. And
is that how you teach at Versatile? Is that kind of
yes,
the ethic? The Versatile ethic?
Yeah, and that's our ethic with Versatile is like teach the foundation first. Once you get the foundation, then bring your style in, because and of course you can always naturally include elements of your style of moving into the foundation, but like you want to look like you have a good foundational base first. You know, because if you try to just fuse in everything all at once at the same time and never like sit in the actual foundation of each style, then, you know, you could be an amazing just all open styles dancer. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you ever want to go in a space of like, I teach hip hop, I'm a hip hop dancer, I battle hip hop, and then people are like, so where's the hip hop? Because I see you do 10 different moves from 10 different styles.
I'm not at all surprised to hear you say, because, you know? We had a lesson, which I'm going to cut in pieces of this. And I like the way you taught it. You're just like, here are the 4 basic moves that everything's built off of, and you just work those. Like, you can build off that, and that's a great, simple, intuitive way to learn.
Learn your foundation and build off that. That's it. Then you can fuse all the things you want to. But you know, it's just when you get to high level dance spaces where like. You want to claim you have a specialty in a certain style, then you got to show that you know that's the specialty. You know what I mean? So that's why for me, I can do just foundation of house, hip hop, popping, krump if I need to, but naturally, especially where I'm at doing styles for so long, I just now mix things in.
Yeah. Dope. Is there anything else you want to get into or anything you want to ask me before we taper this off? This has been really great, and you're. I really like what you have to say about this stuff because you have an interesting perspective. Right. Especially on the krump thing, because you're not like, you seem to see different sides of it. Yeah. Right. You're not like it's only this. It's only this.
Right.
But I do end up driving these conversations. Right. But I definitely want it to be a conversation. If there's something you like, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
curious about.
Yeah. I'm just curious about how you got connected with the dance community.
Oh, you don't know?
General, I don't know, because I never knew how you actually got connected to the dance community from where you came from.
So I'm going to break out my answer to Brandon's question into a separate episode. I get asked about this a lot, and this conversation allowed me to fully explain how I got involved in the street dance community. I'll be dropping the Why the Real Future episode soon, so keep an eye out for it. In the meantime, we finish up this episode with a drum and dance improv. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Really thank you, John. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a fun time. I had a blast being able to share. And yeah, I just hope that more of these stories continue to get put out and it helps folks really expand their perspective on what the community is and who the people in the community are.
Hit that subscribe button.
Hit the subscribe.
All right, man.
Hit it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
Bye.